when people start flip-flopping and changing their minds from something that's really important. And I felt that today it was drifting away from football's problem to Liverpool are knobheads. And I really don't think they are on this. I'd love to say it. I'd love to say Liverpool are knobheads. I don't want them to do well as a Man United fan. But I just don't agree with all these people jumping in the media going, oh, they're asking for too much. They've had their apology, move on. They're not understanding the point here. This is not a penalty or a handball or a red card that was given in good faith but by incompetent people. They willingly deprived them of a goal live on TV and the audio's there. It's very, very different. And anybody who starts saying, like a Spurs fan, we want the Champions League final to be replayed, it's idiotic. I didn't think it was a penalty in the Champions League final for Liverpool against Spurs, but it wasn't willingly done. They gave a penalty. They thought it was a penalty. In the Spurs-Liverpool game, the goal was scored. They know it should have been a goal, and they willingly stopped it. It's very different. So all these people who say, well, we want a replay, they're not understanding. You can't have a replay for a genuine decision that's incompetent. But Klopp is saying, well, we should get a replay because they did it on purpose. Like they.
I understand where Mark is coming from here. I do. And he's right. He's massively right about one thing. This conversation is moving away from the overarching issue that football has with VAR. But I also believe Mark is doing it in this conversation. We've all had a little bit of fun on Twitter and on socials with Liverpool. And that's always going to happen. There's going to be a bit of banter in there. When Mark says, and I wrote it down a few times there, willingly deprived, they willingly knew they made a mistake and they didn't give the goal. Therefore, you can't look at penalty decisions or red cards or the subjective element of football as a way of not defending the refs, but saying, well, we want replays if Liverpool want them. Where I think Mark's wrong in this is that we're looking at this in too much of a shallow way. We've heard the audio. They've realized they've made a mistake. And you're right. They followed their protocol, but they should have actually broken it and said, no, let's stop this game and let's give the goal. They didn't, and they willingly, as Mark put it, decided to not award that goal in the end. And we've heard the evidence of that. I think people's problem is that we have no idea what they have willingly and not willingly given, whether it's an objective or a subjective decision, because we don't have transparency on the process. So I'll give you an example. Chelsea fans are coming out and they are saying that, you know, we've had multiple decisions not go our way. We want replays as well. And to Mark's point, and Mark's tweeted about this as well, he's sort of talking around the experts not really getting it. And by having a go at Liverpool, you're sort of not helping football, which I understand. But I get where Chelsea fans are coming from. And the reason I get where Chelsea fans are coming from is because we have seen on a subjective decision, Mike Dean has admitted avoiding a VAR call to spare a referee more grief. So we know this has happened at least once. The question is, how many more times on subjective decisions has the referees, the VAR assistant, and all those people in that room not done the right thing? Again, I'll use Mark's words, willingly stopped a penalty, willingly stopped a goal, willingly stopped the right decision to protect one of their colleagues? That's a fair question. We, of course, see Lee Mason forgetting to draw the lines on Arsenal's offside. To my knowledge, and if I'm wrong, please correct me, we still haven't heard the audio from this situation. We then find out that VAR didn't even fully investigate the disputed equalizer. So you've got Mike Dean admitting that he covered up for his friend. Arsenal's controversy last year, with no lines being drawn, didn't even get a full and frank investigation. We have at times seen another objective situation where goal line technology hasn't even been turned on. So there have been multiple examples in the Premier League of subjective and objective decisions not followed through, and we have no idea why. There are question marks. And that's the big issue fans have here, that Liverpool's situation is rightfully getting attention, but it's moving away from football's issue, and a lot of people feel like it's becoming a Liverpool situation. So, of course, banter is going to come out. Frustration is going to come out. And on top of this, we've got a few more clips to go through because I really want to gauge opinion on this. It's even this season, we have seen decisions, some of which are objective, some are subjective, that we want full transparency on. Arsenal's handball versus Tottenham's versus Man United's handball versus Tottenham. I want to know. I want to hear the audio so I understand the difference in why one was given and one was not. That education piece will help us. Because as far as I'm concerned, those were incorrect decisions made. One of those decisions has to be incorrect because for me, they're identical to one another. And until they educate us on this, I'm not going to change my mind. When it comes to objective decisions, we have seen apologies for Nathan Ake's goal standing. And their reasons, if you go and read the full article, and Howard Webb said it, is because Akanji is standing in the eye line of the goalkeeper. Yet, against Palace, this still has not been discussed by the mainstream media. Onana has to move to his right because he can't see because of the offside Palace player. The ball then goes just over the Palace player's head and goes exactly where Onana would have been standing had he not been there, had the defender not been in offside position. Again, an objective decision that nobody is talking about. Now, we might hear the explanation and go, I completely and utterly understand why that was done. But without, this has opened a can of worms now, and we need full transparency on everything. So I get where Mark's coming from, I do. But I think he's wrong about this situation. People are, of course, going to tease Liverpool and they're going to go at them because they feel like, well, we've had loads of bad decisions against us, objective and subjective. We believe that there has been bias or corruption or a misfollowing of protocols at times, and that's provable. Yet nobody has stood up for us and said there should be replays and has called out referees on our behalf. I think that's what's really, really key here. Now, I want to go back to what Jurgen Klopp said. Okay, just so we can give this full transparency. To go back to what he said yesterday.
So much more as a football person. I think the outcome should be a replay. That's how it is. Probably will not happen.
So he says very clearly there, Jurgen Klopp, that this is not him as a Liverpool man. This is him as a football person. And I appreciate that. And on reflection, I don't even think he's wrong for asking for it. I called last year and said that Liverpool should have sacrificed their position in the FA Cup and not done the replay versus Wolves based on us all knowing their goal was onside. I got absolutely lambasted. And the irony, this is the same circumstance. It is an objective decision that was not undertaken. Now, we haven't heard the audio. We don't know what they have and haven't said. As far as I'm aware, if you've got the clip of the audio, send it to me. But Liverpool didn't offer up their place in the competition or a replay or anything along those lines. So, of course, hypocrisy will be called out. However, there can always be a breaking point for somebody to change their stance in this world. We all do it. What you think today might not be the same in 5 years because of things that happen to you. And that's fair. But now what Jurgen Klopp and Liverpool have done, and this is the bit, again, I think that some Liverpool fans, I don't want to say all, some are trying to pull away from. They're trying to box this into, if an offside decision isn't given that's clearly onside, that's when the outrage should ensue. That's when replay should be asked for. Not everything that comes under the VAR umbrella. And that's where I disagree. Liverpool have now made themselves the torchbearers, the front runners, the face really of this football against VAR campaign. And what I now expect from Liverpool is this forthcoming weekend, if other clubs, their rivals, or even teams they're playing, if they are undone by an inconsistent decision or the apparent misuse of process by VAR, they should be, one, if it impacts them, be offering rematches, and two, standing up for everybody. This can't be a one-issue, one-time situation as far as I am concerned. So I think Klopp's right to call this out, but they now need to maintain this. Otherwise, there's no integrity in their claim. Otherwise, it's just about, well, I want to get the best for Liverpool, and I don't actually care about the overarching element of football, which is what I think Mark Goldbridge's point is, that what Liverpool are doing is for football. So that now needs to be followed through by everybody. But as I've already said in this video, there are more than just the goal being onside and the VAR referee thinking that it was onside rather than offside. That's not the only time we have seen potential corruption, malpractice, and the non-following of processes over the last 4 years or so.
For mistake, and there's no hiding from that. And whilst I hear Jamie Carragher suggesting that whataboutery is not the same thing, what happened to other football clubs and other games isn't a reason for not considering this as a replay, it's ridiculous. A mistake has been made. Unfortunately, the outcome of the game wasn't necessarily determined by that because it didn't happen in the 97th minute, and so Liverpool couldn't have altered the outcome for the rest of that game. It happened at a certain stage in the game, and there was a lot of game in front of them. I understand that whatever happens can affect the outcome. I get it.
Yeah.
But to suggest it needs to be a replay, Gary Neville, I agree emphatically on it. It's ridiculous.
Look, I understand where Simon Jordan's coming from, but the whataboutery element, where he's saying that Jamie Carragher's called out the whataboutery and saying, well, because Spurs didn't get a replay 4 years ago in the Champions League final, that's not the reason why there shouldn't be a replay this time around. And again, it becomes a bit tit for tat. It becomes a little bit tribalistic, and it goes away from everybody looking at the greater problem here, which I think is what Mark's trying to do. And I advocate what he's looking at here. I just think we need to go deeper than the current conversation. But the reason why you're going to get the whataboutery isn't because of what's right or what's wrong. It's because people will state, well, when you benefit Liverpool, you're quiet. We saw Ange Postecoglou at the weekend. I don't think he was necessarily defending the decision, but he just said these things happen in football. But I almost guarantee if it was the other way around, he wouldn't have said these things happen in football. And this is where, and this is the final point I'm making on this video, and this is where we see what people really believe. I know in myself, because the content's out there, I call out bad decisions for and against my team. I said Wolves were robbed first day of the season. Very consistent. I've called for my own team to ban my players for diving in the past because I want diving and poor decisions taken out of the game. I've called VAR out every step of the way. And by the way, praise them when they've got things right as well. My fervent belief is this, that 90% of football fans this weekend, if they benefit from VAR, in one way, shape, or form, will not call for replays, and they'll barely call it out, and that's the name of the game. It swings and roundabouts. And if they're punished by one, they'll be asking for replays. They'll be saying, why is this not on Good Morning Britain? Now, I've asked that question this week myself, somewhat sarcastically, to prove a point that there was a red card that should have been given. For me, I don't even think it's subjective. Vinicius smacked man on the back of the head. He should have been sent off in that game. Not only was it not given, there's been zero discussion about it. Do you know why? Because Chelsea won. If we're really going to fix this problem, everyone hates Man United, so I use them as an example, or Arsenal, most people dislike them. If either of our clubs win this weekend 4-5-0, but yet still have a bad VAR decision go against us, we should have the same energy for that decision. And until we get that, this whole conversation for me is almost pointless. That's the length and depth that I think we need to go to as football fans. So listen, I agree with Mark's overarching take. 100% I agree with his overarching take that this shouldn't just be tit for tat. I'm not going to back you because you're Liverpool. I'm not going to back you because you're Manchester United. But where I disagree is that people are going to call out hypocrisy. People are going to turn around and call out their misgivings. Where's our backing? Where's our support? Because it's a preemptive strike, and I know in a week's time we're not going to get it. And the one thing that is nonsense, and I'm seeing it from a lot of people, is you can't compare subjective versus objective decisions. Yes, you can, because we have proof that referees and VAR are not following through with some objective decisions because of their emotions, ironically. Sorry, some subjective decisions because they don't want to upset people. So they know it's a penalty. They know it's a red card, the same as the whole world did, and they're not giving it because of their love and respect for somebody on the football pitch. Knowing that's happened once tells you it could happen again. And we need transparency, we need clarity, and we need this to be fixed and resolved quickly. Listen, people, I appreciate your views and opinions. I know they may all be different. And everything I've spoken about today, I don't want people going in on Mark. I don't want people attacking anybody here. This is a football conversation. We have to challenge each other. You have to risk maybe being offensive, but that isn't the idea behind this. About being offensive. It's about trying to help football, I suppose. Listen, take care. Goodbye. God bless. See you all again.